morning children. Today let us begin our class by seeing the difference between chemical equation and balanced chemical equation. Before explaining the difference between chemical equation and balanced chemical equation, let us see what is meant by chemical equation. In order to explain that, let us consider an example. Let me give you an example of chemical reaction in the form of a word equation. Nitrogen or hydrogen react with chlorine and produces hydrogen chloride. Is it clear, children? Hydrogen reacts with the chlorine and produces hydrogen chloride. Now just say this is a chemical reaction which I explained by means of word reaction. Now the same word reaction, word equation we can represent by means of symbols and formulas. Representation of chemical reaction using symbols and formulas is termed as chemical equation. So let us represent this reaction. H2 plus Cl2 will give you HCl. Is it clear, children? So this symbolic representation of a chemical reaction, symbolic representation of a chemical reaction is termed as chemical equation. Is it clear? Symbolic representation of a chemical reaction. Representation of a chemical reaction is termed as chemical equation, or we can say that it is the shorthand representation of a chemical reaction. So is it clear, children, what is chemical equation? Chemical equation is the shorthand representation of a chemical reaction, or it is the symbolic representation of a chemical reaction. Now let us see what is the difference between chemical equation and a balanced chemical equation. You consider the same reaction, H2 plus Cl2 will give you HCl. In this case, the coefficient of the molecules represents the number of molecules. Here the coefficient of hydrogen is 1, that of chlorine is 1, and that of hydrogen chloride is also 1. But you can see that one molecule of hydrogen contains 2 hydrogen atoms. At the same time, one molecule of chlorine also possesses 2 chlorine atoms. And here in product side, you can see number of hydrogen atom is 1 and that of chlorine atom is also 1. Is it clear, children? In this particular chemical equation, the number of atoms on the reactant side and that on the product side are not the same. In the reactant side, you can see the presence of 2 atoms each of hydrogen and chlorine, but in product side there is only one atom each. So this type of a chemical equation in which number of atoms on the reactant and the product side are not same is termed as simply chemical equation. Is it clear? On the other hand, you just consider another equation. Carbon burns in oxygen and produces carbon dioxide. Carbon burns in oxygen and produces carbon dioxide. In this case, the number of carbon atoms on the reactant side is 1 and that of oxygen atoms on the reactant side is 2. Now you consider the product. In the product side also, number of carbon atom is 1 and that of oxygen atom is 2. So just listen here. Here we can see that number of atoms on the reactant side and the product side are one and the same. And this type of chemical equation in which number of atoms on the reactant side and the product side are the same is termed as balanced chemical equation. So is it clear, children, the difference between chemical equation and balanced chemical equation? We have seen that chemical equation is the shorthand representation of a chemical reaction, or it is the symbolic representation of a chemical reaction. And the chemical equation in which number of atoms on the reactant side is equal to that on the product side, then it is termed as balanced chemical equation. Now the question arises, what is the purpose of balancing a chemical equation? Is it a must to balance a chemical equation? Yes, children, it is a must to balance the chemical equation since last year, that is in 9th class, you have studied a law which is termed as law of conservation of mass. Do you remember what is the statement of law of conservation of mass? Yes, the law states that total mass of reactant should be equals to total mass of products. That is, mass can neither be created nor be destroyed, but it can be converted from one form to another form. Law of conservation of mass states that mass can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to another form. That is, total mass of reactants should be equals to total mass of products. That is why, children, balancing of chemical equation is a must. Then only we are able to verify law of conservation of mass. Is it clear? Is it clear what is a chemical equation, what is balanced chemical equation, and what is the purpose of balancing a chemical equation? Okay. Now we have to study about balancing of a chemical equation. How to balance a chemical equation, and we are going to do it on the basis of a method which is termed as hit and trial method that we will discuss in next class. Thank you, children.